All right, let's just dive right into this. Ditch those heavy, messy bags of potting soil. Forget the nightmare of repotting, and let's leave behind that endless, stressful guessing game of, wait, did I overwater this again? Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to explore a surprisingly simple, almost botanical magic trick, water gardening. We'll be looking at 7 common indoor plants that don't just survive when you plop them in a glass of tap water, they absolutely thrive. It's clean, it's highly effective, and honestly, it's incredibly rewarding. 40. Just think about that number for a second. Think about where you were 40 years ago. For 4 entire decades, a grandmother kept a pothos plant thriving in absolutely nothing more than a blue glass bottle, just sitting right there on her kitchen windowsill. Every single morning, she drank her coffee and watched those vines trail down toward the sunlight. No soil, no complicated fertilizer routines, just plain water and 40 years of vibrant green life. And this perfectly illustrates our first major takeaway, because when that grandmother passed away, her daughter took a cutting of that exact same plant. And now, it lives in a third-generation's kitchen. This absolutely proves that water plants aren't just some flash-in-the-pan TikTok trend or a temporary table centerpiece. They are durable, living investments. They literally become family heirlooms that you can pass down through the decades. So, let's move right along to section 1, no soil, no stress. We're going to cover the basics of water gardening. Let's break down the mechanics of this, what I like to call lazy gardening method, using the pothos, which is pretty universally considered the ultimate, indestructible beginner plant. The process is ridiculously simple. First, you just take a cutting with a node. Now, if you're new to this whole thing, a node is literally just that little brown bump on the stem where the leaves grow out. That specific spot is exactly where your new roots are going to burst from. Next, you just pop it in a glass jar with clean water. And finally, change the water occasionally, maybe once a month, or let's be real, every couple of weeks if you actually remember. So here's the crazy part. From just one single pothos vine, if you cut it into sections where each piece has a node, you can get like 10 completely free plants for your house. All right, on to section 2, the fast-growing multipliers. These are the plants that essentially build an army.
If you want to create that lush indoor jungle aesthetic, but you really don't want to spend a single dime doing it, these are the plants that will rapidly clone themselves to give you that look for totally free. First up in this multiplying group is the spider plant. This thing has a literal superpower. It grows its own little baby plants right on the ends of these long, dangling stems. All you have to do is snip off one of those babies and drop it in a glass of water. Within a single week, you're going to see roots. Within a month, you've got a full-blown plant. Oh, and fun fact from the source material, cats absolutely love batting at those dangling babies, and it's totally 100% safe for them to do so.
So imagine walking into a friend's kitchen, right? You see a windowsill completely jam-packed with these beautiful cascading purple and green vines in all these little glass jars. And you ask, wow, where did you buy all these? They must have cost a fortune. Well, the reality, they cost practically $0. That neighbor was looking at the wandering Jew, which is also known as the Transcantia or inch plant. It is so incredibly fast-growing that you actually have to trim it back regularly. But the beauty is, every single cutting you trim goes right back into a jar of water. You're basically turning one cheap cutting into a massive cascading collection.
Moving on to section 3, the low light champions, thriving in the dark corners.
Now, this category is absolutely a game changer for busy professionals or for those of us stuck in dreary, sunless offices where traditional potted plants just go to wither away. The undisputed star of the low light world is lucky bamboo. But here's a wild fact for you. It's not actually bamboo at all. Nope, it's a type of Dracaena, but it has been grown in water for centuries across Asian cultures. The care is literally foolproof. You just keep the water about an inch above the roots and swap it out every 2 to 3 weeks. It thrives in terrible light, which makes it absolutely perfect for your office desk. And here is a pro money-saving tip. Do not buy those expensive, pre-arranged sets at the big box stores. Buy the individual stalks for a couple of bucks each, arrange them yourself, and you'll save a ton of money.
Next up in our low-light lineup is the Chinese evergreen, also known as Aglaonema. It has these gorgeous, beautifully patterned leaves in silver, green, and even some really cool pink varieties. Now, I'll be honest, it's a bit of a slowpoke. It can take up to a full month to even start rooting, and it is pretty picky. It specifically wants warm or room temperature water. But once those roots finally get going, it becomes the ultimate low-maintenance champion for those desperately dark corners of your house where literally nothing else survives. Section 4. The colorful survivors. We're talking vibrant colors and surprising resilience. These visually striking plants definitively prove that you do not need a green thumb or even, frankly, a consistent watering schedule to grow bright, head-turning foliage in your home. Check out the coleus. This plant comes with an unbelievable story of sheer neglect. According to the source material, a coleus was left completely alone during a 3-week summer vacation. The water wasn't changed, it wasn't topped off, it was entirely forgotten. The owner expected to come home to a crispy, dead plant. The reality? It had actually grown 2 new leaves and looked healthier than before. You see, some plants don't just tolerate neglect, they kind of prefer it. The coleus roots faster in water than almost anything else out there. Just remember one absolutely crucial rule. It needs bright light to maintain those stunning purples, reds, and pinks. Stick it in a dark room, and those vibrant colors will just fade into a boring, plain green.
Then, of course, we have the beautiful philodendron. It grows these gorgeous, glossy, heart-shaped leaves that look just incredible spilling out of a clear glass jar on a bookshelf. But I gotta give you a quick warning here. It is highly sensitive to cold water. You must always use room temperature water, especially during those freezing winter months. Because if you use icy water straight from the tap, you will severely shock the plant's roots and you'll drastically stunt its growth.
Now, I need to make a pretty serious pivot here for a second, because the philodendron brings us to a massively important warning. Consider this reality from the source. Her cat took one bite of a leaf, and she spent the next day at the emergency vet. Thankfully, the cat in that specific story ended up pulling through and was completely fine, but it really starkly underscores just how incredibly important plant placement is in your home. The philodendron is highly toxic to pets. It absolutely must be kept far, far away from curious dogs and cats. No exceptions.
Which brings us to Section 5, a garden for everyone. Let's look at accessibility and safety.
We've talked a lot about how incredibly easy these plants are to grow, but we really need to ensure you can do it safely if you have pets roaming around. So we've got a super handy pet safety cheat sheet for you here. For the pet safe champions, we have Lucky Bamboo, the spider plant, the coleus, and the wandering Jew. You can proudly put those right down on your coffee table without sweating it for a second. But then we have the toxic list, the pothos, the philodendron, and the Chinese evergreen. Keep those strictly up high, on shelves where your furry friends absolutely cannot get to them. Seriously, take a screenshot of this list.
So the underlying point to all of this is that water gardening isn't just a fun, trendy design aesthetic. It is intensely, wonderfully practical. The contrast is just stark. Traditional gardening means hauling around 40-pound bags of potting soil, digging, getting dirt literally everywhere, and frankly, it can cause severe joint strain for people dealing with things like arthritis. The source shares this deeply touching story about an older mother who absolutely loved gardening, but just couldn't grip a trowel or carry those heavy bags anymore. Water gardening gave her that joy back. Think about it. It's just lightweight glass jars and clean tap water. It is completely accessible. There's no heavy lifting, there's no messy dirt jammed under your fingernails, and there's no stress. It's just pure, accessible joy.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today, leaving us with one final, very important question for you to chew on. Which of these 7 plants are you going to try first? I mean, whether you want that indestructible 40-year pothos, the fast-multiplying spider plant, the vibrantly colorful coleus, or the low-light surviving Lucky Bamboo, there is a water plant out there just waiting to completely transform your space. So ditch the dirt, grab an empty glass jar, and confidently start your own stress-free indoor garden today. Thanks for tuning into this explainer. Now go get growing.